So, introductions. School Business Services. Many of you will have heard of us and know of us. Some of you may not. We support over 2,000 schools throughout the UK and over 175 MATs through for at least one of our 4 main service areas, which is finance and accounting, MIS, SBS budgets, and ICT, which is the reason we're here today. We support over 150 schools with our ICT provision, and that ranges from anything to remote service desk support, where we at the end of the line, to troubleshoot, make recommendations, general advice, or on-site visits from time to time, or a full managed service provision where we supply network management on-site, full-time on-site engineers. I think the key thing that I wanted to talk about today, when I was asked to jump in and help out here, was talk about how the fact we're serverless. So we're not sort of we're not preaching in terms of something we're actually doing what we do ourselves. We're firm believers in it, and this is something that Rob and I together actually embarked on a couple of years ago. I challenged Rob to say we need to consider going serverless because of all of our schools are going to. He was originally a little bit like, not so sure. And now Rob is a massive advocate of serverless environments. So it's been a real success story, so much so that we recently moved our head office, and it was a huge undertaking, best part of 40 staff. It should have been a huge undertaking, but literally we all logged out one day and we all moved to the new premises the next day and logged in, and we were operational because we had a serverless environment where all we needed was an internet connection. So I'll talk a little bit about me. I'm still going to introduce Graham because he's obviously helped with these slides, and many of you may know of him, and if you don't know of him, hopefully you may know of him in the future. Myself, first of all, I've been with SBS for nearly 10 years now. I'm operations director, so under my remit falls ICT, MIS, finance, and I generally get involved from time to time with product discussions of SBS budgets. Graham is a senior ICT account manager. He's got 17 years experience of ICT and ICT in education, which is something to behold. He's been with the company for nearly 10 years himself, and his role is predominantly to advise schools and trusts with regards to strategy, ICT planning, and evangelise about the new technologies that are coming away, and make sure everyone's aware and makes informed decisions. Rob, I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Oh yeah, so I'm Rob. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I'm the ICT project lead at School Business Services. I've got over 20 years experience in ICT, not just in education, but in private sector as well. I've been with SBS for over 7 years now. My main role is to plan and manage the ICT projects for the schools.
Thanks, Rob. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to point out how many years experience these guys have got is because I think, having been in ICT for so long, it's quite easy to get stuck and consider, oh, this way of doing it, and new technology is sometimes harder to sort of get your head around. But these two have embraced it, adapted, and now they both champion it as a serverless environment. So if we can convince these two to make the leap, then that's got to be something. So I mean, when Graham and Rob were thinking about how to sort of address this, I asked them how, because I helped them put some slides together. We said, well, what's the issue? Why would people not want to convert? So we figured that'd be a good way to start today. So we're going to talk about why schools feel they need or needed a server. Okay. Because if we start with the purpose of a server, we can understand why schools previously felt they needed one, and therefore we can discuss what technologies are now in place to replace those things that they felt they could not do without. So we're going to talk about device management, security policies, access management, version updates. We're going to talk about software hosting, and that's going to be quite a key one when we think about SIMs and MIS. We're going to talk about document management because, again, obviously, where do you store your data if you haven't got a server? And how do you ensure it's safe? And how do you ensure it's data and protected and relevant access controls like your relevant drives? And then obviously print management. So print management is a big thing. It always has been, but even more so at the moment with the financial implications and hardships and sort of budgets getting squeezed. We want to make sure that we are managing the escalating print costs. And historically, those print management solutions have only been available by installing on a server, applications on a server. So Rob's going to go into some more detail about that for us in a bit. But I think it's worth pointing out that the two main technologies that have facilitated a serverless environment are the two that you see on your screen now. And they are predominantly the main providers of the core of any school's communication tool. So your email and your document management, and that is Office 365 for education and Google for education. Now, predominantly schools will have one or the other, and they're free for education as well. We see some schools even have a combination of both. They like to use Microsoft for the admin and Office controls, and Google for learning, with Google Classroom being very, very popular. So I'm going to hand over to Rob to talk in a little bit more detail. So let's go back to why schools needed a server. One of the core reasons at the outset we discovered was device management. So Rob has done a lot of investigative work and implemented Microsoft Intune for us. So Rob, did you want to spend some time talking about how we implemented it, what it replaces, how it works, and the advantages it brings?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so yeah, like Rich said, in SBS, to achieve us going serverless, we implemented Microsoft Intune. So I'll go over what that basically is. So if we think back to so if we go to device management from the current server side, so when we talk about device management, we talk about the managing of the PCs and laptops in your school. So that's from installing Windows updates to make sure they have the latest security installed on them, to group policies, which is pushing out settings to the machines to stop access to like C drives or stop access to USB drives to prevent viruses being spread around the network, or to screen lockout. So these are always controlled by the server itself as well. From servers as well, you would do the access control. So your username and passwords would be in something called Active Directory. Here you would create them and reset the passwords. This would be all done on your current server. And on there as well, you would be able to install new machines, new windows on, push out new windows to the machines as well, all by your current on-site server. So how do we move all this stuff we do on your local server to the cloud? So we have to use a program called Intune, or is what's used the most and what we used in SBS. So Intune allows you to manage your employees' mobile devices, apps from a single dashboard across Android, iOS, and Windows devices. So what we did at SBS, we enrolled all our machines into Intune. So we basically told our current devices that instead of talking to the local server, you now need to talk to Office 365. So what this allows us to do is be able to manage these devices across the network. So when we had the group policies for the settings that would be pushed out via a server, we can now do this via Microsoft Intune. So we put the same settings into Microsoft Intune. This would then push out to the machines. So we're able to manage the policies all via the cloud instead of via your local server. Intune uses obviously Office 365 for the user accounts. So on your local server, it was Active Directory, but now it's Azure Active Directory. So this is where your email address and password is stored. So your machine would basically talk to this Active Directory. So you can sign on with your email address and password. You can sign into Office applications with your email address and password, and it would all link up. So you would have access to your documents, which are stored on Office 365, which we're going to go into later. So this would all link together. We're able to then obviously reset passwords for Office 365 and Intune. So this would reset passwords for your devices as well as your email address, because it would all link together as one. We're able to as well monitor devices via Microsoft Intune. So if devices are running slow or they're taking a long time to log in, we're able to look at Microsoft Intune and see these devices that are below par and see what we can do. Do they need an upgrade? Do they need replacing? And it's something that we visibly can see from Microsoft Intune to do this. So it allows us to keep on top of things. Policies and securities, again, I just mentioned that in terms of the group policy. So we're able to still push out those security policies to the machines without the need of a server. In the event of a device being lost, with it being managed in Microsoft Intune, we're able to push out a command to that machine to say that we want it to be wiped. It's gone missing, please wipe the device. So if somebody has stolen the device, for instance, as soon as they connect it to the internet, it will get the command from Microsoft Intune to say, please wipe this device, and it will start wiping all the settings, all the data off the device, so you know that if they did manage to do anything with it, all your data would be wiped from there. With that as well, you can do something called BitLocker, which encrypts the actual drive. So we can push this from Microsoft Intune as well for added security. So if they did decide to take the hard drive out, for instance, where all the data could potentially be stored, they wouldn't be able to access this because this will all be encrypted. Again, this is all part of the security that we can do using Microsoft Intune. And the final part there, we're able to create conditional access. So basically we can tell, we can put what users can access, what apps can a user use, what apps can a user or programs can a user not use. And we can do this all via Microsoft Intune and push out to all the devices that are controlled by that.
So Rob, correct me if I'm wrong then, it feels like there's greater functionality using Intune than connecting to a server.
Yes, definitely. And with the loss of it, if you've got a laptop that goes missing from the school, you don't know where it is, you've got no control over what can be done with that. Whereas Microsoft Intune, you've got that. You might not, you can locate it, even if the location doesn't work, you can go, okay, let's wipe it. And you know that next time it hits the internet, it will get wiped and all the data will be removed from there.
Excellent, thanks, Rob. So the next thing, and I think this is possibly the most topical at this moment in time, is the core systems that schools and MATs use. And obviously, if you've got systems and applications that reliant upon being installed on a server, then that can make things a little bit more difficult. We made a conscious decision to ensure that our software subscriptions were coming up when they were coming up for renewal. We ensured that we opted for a cloud-based solution rather than a legacy server-based system to facilitate this plan to move to a serverless environment. Whilst the software is different, I guess the principle's the same for schools and MATs. But as an interim solution as well, there is always the option, before you go fully serverless, there is the option to rent some space in the cloud to host these systems that you can access remotely. But the core systems, I think at the moment, why schools are maybe hesitant, are such as FMS and SIMS. Obviously FMS and SIMS, they're working on ESS are working on their serverless or cloud-based solutions, but there's other options now coming into the market which are cloud-based and providing a little bit of competition for the ESS, FMS and SIMS, and that's Iris with Iris Financials, and obviously Iris EdGen, their MIS that they've got available, Iris Financial Planner, which is a budgeting solution, and obviously we've got SBS Budgets. You've also got Arbor, Bromcom and ScholarPack as MIS providers, and you've got Xero and other providers as a financial package option. So, I mean, Rob, I'm right in thinking, am I right in thinking, I should say, even if schools are still using FMS and SIMS, there is an option to host these in the cloud as an interim solution until they either SIMS and FMS are cloud-based, or the school or MAP decides to move to another provider.
Yeah. So there are, like you say, there's options. Microsoft, for instance, Microsoft Azure, they give you the option to rent a server. So you could say, we need a server that needs this spec because it's running this particular software. So you can rent that space. You can turn it on, turn it off when you want. Obviously, there's the costs involved in running those. So you essentially, what these guys, Iris and Arbor, and that they're essentially doing that themselves. But but if you want to do it yourself by running SIMS on your own server, that's a possibility, and you would just link to that server on your local machine. So in the interim, to get you to go serverless, you could rent that space, or you could, like say, look at these potential other options to migrate over to.
Thanks, Rob. So it's similar to what we did then.
Yeah.
And Rob, just a side note here as well. We've spoken about the core systems, but the antivirus again, it historically via the server.
Yeah, so like the antivirus software, and there's potentially others as well that you might have on your network. So antivirus will have management software commonly installed on the server that would, say, push out the agent to the machines. It would check the machines for, make sure they're up to date. It would look for any viruses that have been alerted and alert you within these management software, and that would normally be installed on the server. Now there is a couple of options now. More and more places are obviously going cloud-based. So we've got, from Microsoft themselves, they have Windows Defender, which comes with Office 365, and it comes pre-installed on Windows 10 as well. Within Intune, that gives you the ability to monitor this as well, to get alerts on the antivirus being out of date or viruses being picked up. But if any schools are with LGFL or any other boroughs, for instance, sometimes they offer antivirus as part of their package. So LGFL, for instance, offer Sophos Intercept X. Now this is all cloud-based software. So again, you would just install it on the local machine, and it would talk to the internet to for updates, and it could all be managed via one pane of glass online. So again, no need to install the management software on the server. Again, you might have different software that you do use, but you would have to look at the software you use. Is there a cloud version? Can we move over? Yeah, you'd have to take it software by software.
Thanks, Rob. So the third item we identified was file management. So previously, everything saved on the on your local machine or on the server has to be saved on the server if you want to share it. And it was always difficult, in my mind, historically, to manage those files without them becoming completely out of control, because you'd want one file to share with 2 people, one file to share with 3 different people, 4 combinations over there, and it could quickly become a huge cobweb of files. We implemented SharePoint and OneDrive, and I think it's fair to say it's been a real success, right? And it's made things a lot more simple to manage and use, and I think staff definitely get on better with this solution, don't they, Rob?
Yeah, definitely. So if we think about what you potentially currently have on your server in the school, so that's where you're going to be keeping the majority of your school data and user data. You would have obviously permissions on these shares and folders and files that certain people would have access to, certain people won't. So you would share that across the network. With SharePoint and OneDrive, it does open up a lot more opportunities. So you would, what SBS did, for instance, and what we've done in a lot of schools. So if you've got like your admin share or your staff share, we've moved those to SharePoint. We've created sites or locations within SharePoint for, say, your admin share. We've then copied those files off of your server and up into SharePoint. This allows you to, you can add permissions to these locations to say who can access it, who can't access it. You can do that for the whole site that's there. You can do it for the folders, you can do it for the files. So you can set all those permissions up there. The great thing as well is real-time document collaboration. So if you've got documents that multiple people need to work on at the same time, previously it was very difficult to do on a server, or two people would open the same file at the same time. They wouldn't see what each other are doing. One maybe save it, the other one maybe save it later, and then sometimes they would overwrite. So it wouldn't really work. I think some people have got workarounds for it, but on SharePoint, real-time collaboration, you can see who's on the document, who's making different changes at the same time. Multiple people can work on the same document. Document version history, this is great. If multiple people are working on the document and you've gone back to that document and they've made changes that are incorrect or deleted something from there, you can go to document version history and see the changes that have been made and who made them and what time they've made them. You can view, say you want to go back a week, for instance, you can view that document at that particular time. And then if you're happy with that, you can restore that document. So that becomes the main document that everyone then works from. It's a great thing to go back to. And a central hub for staff. So what we've got in SBS and what we do in schools as well is create like an intranet page. So what we've done within schools is all the shares, we would put links on the one intranet page. So everyone will come in, there'd be admin share, staff share, SLT, and links to the different places from this one main landing page. On there, you could put your calendars, your news, so everyone could come in there and see what's on there. But it's a great place for everyone to start, and then you can just go off to your different locations where you want to access those documents. And again, all permissions are set, so if you don't have access to it, you won't be able to get access to it. When we talk about OneDrive, this will replace your My Documents or your home share or your home drives. So these are documents that are personal to you, not necessarily everyone in the school needs to have access to them, but so they won't be able to access your OneDrive, it's just you. If there's files in there that you want people to collaborate on or see, you can share those files out or those files out to the users, so they're able to view those and collaborate them the same way as on SharePoint. And again, document version control is the same on OneDrive as well. And the ability to access on any device. So you don't necessarily need to be logged into a device on the school. If you've gone home and you want to log in on your home computer, just go to office.com, email and password, and you've then got access to any SharePoint files that you've got permission to, and your OneDrive files as well, anywhere in the world. There's no limitation anymore of having to go into a school or having to remote onto a machine that's in the school. There's all that limitation is taken away when you move all your files to Office 365.
Yeah, the two things there that jump out for me is the access anywhere. So like at home, I actually have a Chromebook, but I can still utilize all the Office applications via the browser and access all my files and collaborate on them when I want to, which is great. I don't advocate necessarily working from home, but if for whatever reason I need to jump onto it, and the same goes with my phone as well. All the applications are what's the word? They're optimized, aren't they, for multi devices?
Yeah, definitely. And easy, like you say, if there's a document you need to refer to or quickly update, even on a phone, it's so easy to do.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
No problems.
And I think just one other thing which we found really quite, well, I found it straightforward because I didn't do it, but I think it's fair to say you found quite straightforward, was actually uploading all of our files to SharePoint and OneDrive, because nowadays there are specific tools available to facilitate that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and what we tend to do, especially with schools, is we create the SharePoint sites for them, and we present it to them to say, this is how it looks. Are you happy with how this is? And this is where this particular data is going to go. And there's programs now, especially from Microsoft themselves. Once we've set up the file to say, copy this from this location, it's a hit of the button, and then it's just time in uploading it, and it is copied. It's not cut, so it still sits on your server. It's just copied up onto Office 365.
Brilliant. So thanks, Rob. So the final item we identified that, you know, might have been a potential blocker for schools to make the move to a serverless environment is print management, and I can understand why, given the fact that it can become very expensive if you don't have any controls over the printing. My wife works in a school, and I'm not sure if they have print management or not, but they do talk constantly about the rising costs of printing and what have you, with the paper, the toners and whatnot. So where we don't necessarily have a solution, we are committed to reducing our carbon footprint, and obviously schools want to manage costs. So if they move away from a server, Rob, they would have had something. So what's available out there now?
Yeah, so currently on the server, you would have all your printers would be installed on that server. So, and then those servers would be those printers, sorry, would be pushed out to all the machines that need to be able to print. So when you hit print on your machine in the school, it then talks to the server, and then from the server, it will talk to the printer to print out your document. And then obviously you would put the code in if that's what you've got set up, or you scan your card, or it'll just come straight out. So a lot of printers have print management software, for instance, like PaperCut, which would control would show the level of printing. It would control account, like a credit, so certain people can only print a certain amount. It would then show obviously how much is being printed, and from there as well you can control whether you're printing in black and white or color. So how do we do this if we haven't got a server? So luckily there's companies out there that have got cloud printing solutions. We've got a couple on the screen there. The one that we use quite commonly in a lot of our schools is Printex. Again, this is all cloud based. So how this works is we would push out a bit of software from Intune, that's a Printex client. This would then scan the network for all your printers, and then we would configure your printers in the cloud. We would configure the queues. You can do the credit limits on there as well, and set up the controls that side. So this would basically, instead of when you hit print, it going to your local server, you would hit print, it would go up to the internet to the Printex site, and then it would come back down and then hit the printer. And on there you have all your levels, so you can see how much is being printed, who's printing what. So it replicates what you would do on a server, but it's all done via the cloud.
Thanks, Rob. So before we wrap up, I just thought it'd be good to summarize some of the advantages that we've noted ourselves as a company, but also our schools and MAT customers have fed back to us when they've decided to go serverless. So over time, it saves money. When we've estimated over a 5-year period on infrastructure alone, you can save up to £10,000, and that's based on energy to run a server, that's based on upgrades, that's based on repairs, etc. potentially cheaper support provisions. Less on-site hardware means less on-site assistance required, and it also allows for greater bring your own device use. So you can champion pupils using their own devices. They'll log into their defined account, school account, and they'll only be and then they'll only be able to operate and see what you guys manage within Intune. Builds resilience. I think we've covered that and implied that enough when we talk about accessing anywhere, anytime, and therefore business continuity. Business continuity, I think we've all realised over the last 2 to 3 years is absolutely essential, and this certainly made it a very straightforward project for us when we had to obviously have staff working predominantly from home, and we continue to operate a hybrid model which is only catered for by our move to a serverless environment. I think something that we don't necessarily, or we take for granted, but it indirectly improves staff satisfaction. So we see a better user experience because we don't have staff moaning about can't access this, can't access that. Everything just seems to work. It's less impactful on device memory and runtime, so devices are generally more responsive and quicker. More dynamic monitoring, right? So that means we tend to head off any potential issues before they become an issue. Rob spoke earlier about Intune offering remote performance monitoring, which means we can identify a machine that might be struggling early and what we need to do to that machine, when we need to upgrade it, replace it, etc. And obviously it reduces downtime, and any downtime reduced means higher productivity of our staff. So I think all those things in general leads to greater productivity and a better working environment for everyone. I think the thing that surprised me the most is I think there's a sort of a feeling of unknown when I went into it, thinking we're moving all of this stuff into the cloud. We're not going to have physical control of a server, so it's going to be less secure. And I couldn't be more wrong. It's actually the other way. We're actually more secure in my mind now. All data is secure, regardless of whether it's on a school or personal device. It has to be accessed via our 365 account, which I think I don't know if we alluded to, which it also we have multi-factor authentication available for that. Remote device management in the event of loss or theft, well, that speaks for itself. And the old one, which is we don't need to worry about server room access anymore. So you save money on the aircon, but also we don't need to worry about people sort of storing stuff in the server room, pressing things that they shouldn't do, turning switches off and on, pulling cables out. That's no longer an issue for us, and certainly I've seen it in schools where our engineers have had to go in because from time to time somebody's touched something they shouldn't on the server. So that's no longer an issue for us. So that pretty much concludes where we're at. I think we've got a bit of time for any questions you guys may or may not have. I mean, if you feel happier putting it in the chat, if you've got any questions. No. Okay. Well, I mean, if any questions come to light after this, after you've taken it away, viewed it, and what have you, then you know where we are to get in touch. Thanks, Marco. Just to remind you that if you are considering a move to a server and you just want a bit of advice, then we're there. We're more than helpful to field questions, give you some ideas and thoughts as to how you can achieve what we've achieved and what a lot of our customers are actually achieving, and what a lot of our customers will be achieving over this summer, because Rob has got plenty of projects that he's managing where schools and MATs are choosing to go serverless. Well, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. Well done. Yeah, we've still got time. We've still got time if anyone does have any more questions. I see people typing in the chat. I mean, is anyone on the call already in a serverless environment and has some sort of hints and tips around that? Have you had any experiences? That's always good to hear. Laura will look to do this over the next few years. Great. I mean, as Rich said, it's worth speaking to us just to get a discussion, a quotation, but also those kind of scenarios and get those logistics down on paper for a project like this. If you want to do it this summer, great. If you wanted to put it on ice for another half term or an Easter or another summer, you can do that. At least you have it all in your mind. You've got peace of mind that you can pull the trigger on that project whenever you want to, really.
And if I could just say as well, a lot of schools do it in a staged way as well. So even if the first part would be, we find is put your data up to SharePoint, create those sites. That could be just that. We've had schools that just put their shared data into SharePoint, but still leaving the home drive data on the server. And then eventually you then move that and then you just do it bit by bit. So it's not one go, it could be a gradual process. Even if you're in a position where you can't move your Sims, you could gradually do that. And then if you're hanging on for Sims to bring out their cloud version, you might be in a position to go at that point. Or then you could look at migrating to a different solution. So it can be just a gradual process, even a bit every term.
Rob, that's really interesting because you're answering Laura Lee's point there. So Laura's said our issue is signing up to ESS Sims. So I guess, Laura, you've signed up to a 3-year contract and you feeling that maybe means you can't make this jump yet. What advice would you do there, Rob?
Yeah, again, is you could do as much as you could do before having to move the Sims. So you could even go as far as the Intune management, the devices talking to the cloud instead of the local server, and then just linking back to the Sims access. So there is a way of doing pretty much everything until the last little bit, which is the Sims part. So I think
that's really good, actually, because then you get all the benefits of what we've spoken about as well still, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not, I think it helps as well with users as well, because it isn't just suddenly one new system. Everyone's got to learn a new way of doing it. It could be gradual, and then people get used to that part. You then bring on another bit. So it can be a good process to do it gradually.
So Jack asked how long it took us to go serverless.
Well, to be honest, we were pretty quick because with COVID coming in and needing access to files, and we didn't really have access to internal servers remotely, not in an easy way. So we did it really, really as quick as we possibly could, as possibly we could do it. But it was still staged. Data went first, then devices, then the Intune. So we still did it staged, but a very quick process over probably maybe a week or 2.
Yeah, I remember. I couldn't answer the question of how long it took because it seemed to just happen, and I was involved, and it was great, and I just suddenly had access to all my Adobe files, create cloud files with collaborating with our designer. So yeah, I think it happened seamlessly. Did someone have a question? Was someone unmuting themselves and had a question? Because you still can do that if you want to. The point on Laura's point about the MIS is a really good point. And if you are thinking of changing MISs or moving to a cloud-based MIS, our MIS team can help your data manager and so on in terms of giving you the best advice on what you switch to. And obviously then Serverless can support that cloud-based solution. I know that.
Good point, Will, because our MIS provision adopts a system agnostic approach, and we make recommendations based on the individual school on that.
Yeah, we're system agnostic. I mean, I'm looking here at, and we are the messenger as well. So if there's a good offer in the MIS world, we will let you know. Arbor are offering a pay for one promise where you can sign up to Arbor even if you're in contract with a current MIS, and you only pay for one. So it's worth maybe just coming onto the website. I'll post it in the chat actually, and seeing if that's of interest to you. Okay. I think that's it for the questions, but we're still here. You want to ask any more? For those that join late,
what'll be quite interesting. This is our first ICT coffee club that we've delivered. I mean, are there any other subjects ICT related that people would like us to cover in the future?
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying, for anyone who joined late, this is being recorded, so we'll email it out to you. So yeah, if those who want to sort of watch in your own time, you can do that. And then you can contact us at any point if you have got any other questions.
Yeah, I should just go on to the last slide, actually. Now we've left the Q&A. Stay connected. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you've got any questions following this, or when you're watching this back, or you want any advice, you know, we don't mind giving you some free advice. If it's, you know, if just a casual chat or whatever, then give us a call. Option 5. You can email us, visit our website, or you can follow us on Twitter. DM us on Twitter if you prefer, and we can get back to you there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I handle the DMs on Twitter, so I'm happy to talk to you if you've got any questions, and I can obviously match make you with any of the teams at SBS. Yeah, we can take it from there. All right, I think I'm happy to leave it there. I'm happy to stay on for another 10 minutes as well, in case anyone wanted to drop off and you had any questions. I'm happy to answer them. And otherwise, we'll see you in a future SBS Coffee Club in September. Keep an eye on our website. We'll put some new dates up, and yeah, it's been a good year, good academic year of topics and a range of topics. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed them, and yeah, definitely request topics and subjects that you want to know about.
Brilliant. Thanks for hosting, Will.
No problem at all.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, cheers, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.